Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Licensed Psychologist Now What? It's been a long time. To be honest, I don't know exact time. I might put it on the show notes, but it's been a long time. It's been years since I have recorded an episode. So first, I just want to say welcome back to those that have listened to episodes in the past. And for those that are new to listening, I am so excited to have you here and to become a listener and to build some community. That's the whole purpose of this. I created this podcast for my journey, for also to let other people know about the journey, because I know I'm not alone, but it takes someone to start talking about things so other people can be like, oh, I'm also going through that. So hopefully via this podcast, we can find some community and some common grounds of several of us that are questioning our profession standards and the things that we have done in order to a lot of times survive, graduate, and all those things. So that way we can reconnect with ourselves, our gifts, what we came here to do now at the moment, and how we continue to evolve. So just wanted to say thank you again for listening. On today's episode, I felt very inspired to record it about the topic of deconstructing, like unlearning and learning, which probably is different. But for this episode, I'm going to be kind of combining those both concepts. And first, we're going to talk a little bit. I'm talking more about myself. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. And then I'll share an update. So that way, if you want to listen about the update, you don't have to. You can just go scroll at the end, or when this episode, it's not, people listen to it later. They don't have to listen to the update at the beginning. So that's what I thought would be best. So let's begin with sharing a little bit about this topic of deconstructing the programming. And I know that in essence, this podcast overall theme is about that. It's about how can we deconstruct all the standards, all the things that we have put. And that's why I've had guests speak on what they're doing on their own deconstructing or learning journey, and for myself as well. Something that I feel like it's important as we deconstruct, it's that idea of coming full circle. Recently, I've been reflecting a lot about many full circles and things that I learned a long time ago that now are finally making like full sense. For example, in the humanistic theory, how I was taught about Carl Rogers, it was, a simple concept that I really liked was about the real you versus it was in Spanish, so era el yo real versus el yo. Right now I can remember, but it was basically like the real you versus the you that you have created in order to satisfy society and others' needs. And when I remember learning about that concept and how to, when we were learning the humanistic theories, we learned the concept, but we also learned how to apply that with clients. I was like, this is so cool. Okay, now I feel like this is basically the concept of this whole podcast, is how I am and others in this journey of going back to explore and questioning, which is the first thing that I was going to say, in this journey of questioning who we are and what are the things that we're doing to satisfy other people's needs, society, the profession, our jobs, the expectations, and even the expectations that our clients have. Because nowadays, with all this online social media, AI, and so many things, I feel like clients are coming more in I'm going to put quotes, open quote, informed, close quote, but it's more because they've been talking way more about what mental health is. So a lot of times, sometimes they even come to therapy with expectations, and they read posts about what to expect in therapy. What should you ask? All these things. And sometimes that is helpful because it gives you kind of like a little manual of where to begin. But then sometimes they're coming already with their set of expectations of what you need to be as a therapist, or what is expected there. And perhaps they won't be their ideal clients, but I'm just saying this is happening more and more often. And a lot of times they're not necessarily doing with any ill intent. It's more that that's just the current society, not society, the current situation with TikTok and all those kind of things. So questioning, I'll continue talking about that. So that's one of the first steps, is starting to question what's mine, what's not mine, what's being expected of me, what happens if I don't follow these expectations, what are the consequences? And in there, really going deep into what are the consequences that I think would happen versus what are the consequences that have happened, even to other people, to yourself. So that way you can start teasing out way more about what is what you think that could happen. Here comes the whole catastrophizing. That's one of my go-tos. And that's all in my mind. A lot of times those things, like 80% or more, would not come into fruition, but we make our stories and we justify and all these things. So that's why teasing out, like what's the, I don't like using like fact basing is, because that's another big thing, but like, what are the information that you feel it's real in terms of consequences? And that could be, if you're a mental health therapist, that could be like exploring the legal statutes in your state or the states that you're licensed. It could be the ethical code that you are under. It could be, stuff like that, like ethics and laws and regulation, because those things then, they're there and they could be used. So really exploring all those things and learning these topics from people that look like you. I remember I recently went, well, it was not recent, it was 6 months ago, but to the Reclaiming Our Identity for BIPOC. Me and names, I'll put it in the show notes, but it was a conference by Dr. Sandra de Leon, and that one was in Mexico. And I attended one of the ethics and law and regulation one by a Black man. And that was so enlightening, how different it was taught, versus I also attended another conference that is mostly white psychologists, which is the majority. And in that one, it was taught from a very, very the traditional, like, if you do this, this could happen, but it was not providing any context. So it's helpful when you learn about these things from someone that looks more like you, consulting with attorneys and exploring, because there's a lot of fear based, but not a lot of those things are necessarily true. So doing your work in that. Besides that piece, also exploring for you how comfortable you would feel if you would start bringing a little bit more of yourself. Even little things like, for me, has been like my family learning about these things and exploring, and the shame and the judgment that I have felt growing up in being the little good girl in all the different environments that I have been in. So all those things, as I continue to question, am I really that little good girl, or was I doing it out of fear? Was I just trying to get attention, get love, get admiration from someone by behaving in a certain way? And that way, you can go on and on, basically questioning the things that you have done. Sometimes that stage can be how some people call it the cocoon stage, that you might kind of retrieve a little bit from society or from family, friends, because you're kind of going through that journey of really exploring and questioning it all. And I think it's important to also say that thing can get you into a loop. So anything in overuse, it can become something harmful. So also maybe put in some parameters of how long will you be there, or when you're noticing that that's just going down a rabbit hole and is not helpful, then how are you going to kind of come back to the present? And a lot of times it's like, how can you come back to the present? In my situation, I would say the things that bring me more to the present is my kids and my current life. Like, there's a lot of things going on, and I don't do a lot of extracurricular, like they're only in one extracurricular, but with my son, that playing soccer is 3 times a week. And with my daughter is dance once a week. And then they need to eat. I still feed them. I still have to guide them to take a shower, to go to sleep because they're in school or other things. So, and all those things are like, we need to go grocery shopping. All those things kind of help me. They push me to get back to the present when I go down those rabbit holes. Sometimes those rabbit holes could be helpful as well. I'm not the one to tell you and dictate, and you are the one that knows the most about you. I'm just saying that could be, helpful to have some parameters. The other thing is following curiosity. That has been something for me that I've embraced so much, is what are the things that I'm curious about? And some of those things I've been curious for a long time, even before I started my journey to get my doctorate. So really just sitting with it and being like, what are the things that I am curious about? What are the things that I want to learn? What are the things, and taking out some time. And I know it's easier now because my youngest is 3. However, I just got a doggy. That's part of that life update later on. But it's, how do you find the time? And I don't like using this like bluntly because I don't think it applies to everything, but like when there's a will, there's a way. So like really finding how can you bring that into your life, whether it's something that you cannot go and take a class, can you learn even a little bit via a YouTube channel, via TikTok? Can you want to read some books and reading is hard? Do you want to try audiobooks? And that is a whole, there's a lot of ways that you can do that. Whether it's something that you have to do physical, can you integrate it with, even though ideally you just want to go alone, can you integrate it with family or with someone? It's like finding that thing and following that curiosity. I hated the movie, the one that is the rabbit that goes down the rabbit hole. Alice in Wonderland. Alicia en el País de las Maravillas. That's how I learned it in Spanish. I did not, well, maybe growing up, I did not like the movie. I haven't watched the new one, but it's kind of that idea of like following what your curiosity. And whenever you do that, the new things unfold. And it's also like giving ourselves that time, because it's not all about life and, the traditional like working and family. There's more about life. So following that has also been really helpful in my journey of deconstructing the programming of the identity that I had as a psychologist and as Lidiana. Let's take the psychology, that's part of it, but as Lidiana, and really exploring, all those things about the little good girl and wanting to satisfy, wanting to conform to people, like not shining that much, so that way people would dim their lights. It's like kind of like adjusting even my tone of voice, my accent sometimes when I speak Spanish, all those things that I do to kind of like, dim my light in so many ways. But it's like, no, I'm not going to say no more, because it's still a journey and probably will happen until, it's an unfolding one, but I'm more conscious about it, and I'm doing the best that I can with what I have at the moment to continue to explore that. And the third thing I would say is connecting with nature. That's, for me, has been really helpful. Even today I was in a live and it was about expansion and talking about titles and how they hold us back, and evolution and transformation. And I said something there which inspired me to also kind of like just decide to record this episode, which it was about when we connect. One of the things that I think most cultures and societies and communities agree is that we are birthed into this world, however that is. There's so many ways to come into this world, and then one day we won't be here anymore, and our remains will, it's made out of, like organic dust, and so it can end up in the back to the earth. And then what happens after is when, depending on who you ask, then there's so many different ways of seeing it. But in general, that is something that I think a lot of people believe, that you are born, like your birth and your death. We don't talk that much as a society about our death, right? Because we think we're like superwoman and superman. And some people can even question that into like, there's not death, it's just a continuation. But what I mean is like in this life form with your body is not for forever. And then as I was talking with Laura, I was like, yeah. And that's how the universe creates and destructs. It's like there's creation, and then there's fires and destruction or flooding. There's creation, there's a black hole. There's like this, and I heard it somewhere, don't quote me on where, that represents kind of like the breathing of the universe, of things expanding and contracting. And then I was like, it's like our breathing. We inhale and we exhale. And we're constantly in that in and out flow of life. And when I connect with nature, I tend to see that. And I have some herbs. I was able to transport them outside here in the heat in Florida. And I'm noticing, the ones that are like, nope, I'm not doing good with this. There's the wind, there's the storms, there's all these things that happen in the summer storms in Florida and in central Florida. But there's others that are adjusting, and their leaves are making this form, which I'm assuming is to be able to collect more water because it's so hot. So it's that aspect of like growth, and sometimes both are happening together in a plant. You see ones that are dying, and then you see the new ones that are coming, and that's what life is. And we're constantly, our cells are constantly like, there's cells that as I'm speaking are coming into fruition at the moment. I don't know how to call it right now. And there's some cells that are dying as we're speaking. So it's that aspect that it's a both end. And nature gives that to me when I go outside and I see things, and I see the growth, and I see the change, and then I see the destruction. Now I'm back to hurricane zone areas, and I see the destruction, and then I see the beauty. I was in Puerto Rico this summer, and I saw tons of places that I went right after Maria, the Hurricane Maria, that are right now like, oh my God, like so beautiful. And it's destruction, creation. And so that's part of that. And as I'm bringing this in terms of deconstructing the programming, is what are the things that are you ready to burn down? And what are the things that are being like emerging out of that, out of the dust, out of the ashes? What are the things that are going to emerge after? And that's how I see life. It's like it's a constant evolution of new things, new exploration, and things that you probably work so hard, and then they're no longer aligned with yourself, and then you let them go, and then you create something new, and then you let them go. And sometimes we get stuck in the letting go because we get stuck on all the effort that we invested in creating whatever that is. Even if it's a business, even if it's a home that you created, whatever it is, sometimes we hold on too much on, oh my God, I did all this work, so I don't want to, like, what's the word in Spanish? Like, I don't want to waste it. I don't want to put it to waste, especially if you're also coming from families that experience a lot of scarcity, and you make everything with anything, which in many ways is helpful, where they're recycling and all that for the planet, right? But I think it's where it comes from. Like, if it comes from, we have to do it because that's all we have, and in that fear, versus, oh, let's reuse this from, it's just where are you coming from? The same when we're creating and destroying things for ourselves, for destroying belief system, destroying schemas, destroying even how we identify, destroying, and that word might be strong, but that's the one that I feel resonant right now to use, is destroying who, services that we created, or populations and communities that we used to serve. Is like how you continue to evolve. And then what are being called to emerge or create? So, and that's part of that whole deconstructing the programming journey that I've been exploring a lot in my life. So I wanted to share those 3 things that have been helpful in mine, and I hope they're helpful for you. Okay, so now let's go into the update about life. So I already mentioned I am living in Florida. I'm living in West Central Florida, in Tampa, in the general Tampa area. it's it's a whole thing being in Florida. And like every place, there's the good and bad. And probably as you're listening this, if you're very pro, like Florida is like the worst place, and you're probably going to be like, what are you doing there? And all that kind of stuff. And at the same time, it also has a lot of benefits for me and my family. We're closer to Puerto Rico. Over here, I have more family and friends. And as I'm raising little ones, that is very important. And that for me was more important for my peace of mind than being somewhere that I truly love. I truly love California. I feel like a California girl in so many ways. And at the same time, we were alone. And the pandemic really, really hit us, me and my husband, of how hard it was, especially how California was so strict. And I had a newborn. I had a baby in the middle of it. It was so hard. So we are here. We're here now. And our kiddos my oldest had a difficulty transitioning. He continues to say that he prefers California and he wants to move. He's like, when are we going back? My youngest, she was 2. So when we moved, so this is basically what she knows. And so she's happy. She's now meeting tons of friends and being more social. Moving here was really hard. That's why I stopped the podcast and everything. It was really, really hard. We went through a big transitional of destroying things, kind of like what we were talking about. But my daughter was getting sick a lot, constant fevers, and now she's fine and things are more stable, which is why I follow what I preach. I took a break from everything and just maintained the minimum necessary. And now as my ability to, like things are more stable, then I have more the window of tolerance and the ability and the space to do things is bigger. So now I can take new things in a specific way. I still don't know how this is going to evolve, but I'm just felt inspired to record an episode. The other thing is I enrolled in Alma. It's kind of like a company that helps with therapists to get enrolled in different insurances, but they take care of all the billing. So then in Florida, I am taking new clients. I have an office that I rent several hours in Carrollwood, Florida. And the insurances that I am taking here just in Florida, because it's a whole business kind of thing. What I mean is a whole, like, kind of when you have a license in 2 different states and the business it's a whole thing. So right now I'm just taking insurances, and I was about to go into a justifying pattern, just becoming aware where something that I'm deconstructing is like over explaining is like, no, I don't need to over explain. So just letting you know, you're full in practice. I'm taking some insurances, Aetna, Optum, which is United Health, Oscar, and some others. And I'm taking new clients. Right now, I think there's like 3 more slots. It's going to still be a small, I call them boutique, but small practice because of wanting to really balance life and work. And then one last thing I'll share about the update. I mean, I mentioned already, she's now, as I'm recording this, she's laying under the bed next to me. This is the office/guest room on my new home. And I have a 9-week-old schnauzer again. I don't know if I ever told you, but I had a schnauzer. Her name was Coco Chanel, and she died right before the pandemic started. So she died in 2019. Right before summer of 2019. So it was been 4 years since we've had a dog, and now we have a house with a very big yard and tons of neighbors had. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. And now I'm like, oh gosh, last night I didn't sleep. Because we were out yesterday, so she was more in the playpen, so she didn't play that much, even though it's called playpen, right? And then last night she was just energetic and I didn't sleep well. So it's like having a newborn. And also when I had Coco, she was easy to sleep with. She was easier, that piece to sleep. And so then I thought, all schnauzers will be like this. No, they're not. Just like my kids, they're very different. And the other thing I'll say is, sorry, I might congested. I did my first retreat. So I did my first retreat. It was with the amazing hermana, Natalie Gutiérrez. We did it in Puerto Rico. And I'll devote a whole episode talking about my experience and journey that led to there, because I think that deserves a whole story. It is also that aspect of deconstructing the notions that I had of just being the professional, quote unquote, psychologist and becoming which I'm still trying to make sense. I don't align that much with mujer medicina or medicine woman. I think I'm aligning more with soul healer, like sanadora, like, yeah, soul healer. So that's, yeah. So I'll share more about that, but that just happened this last summer. And we're very soon to announce the next year. We already booked it for next year as well. So we're excited to welcome new folks that are going to join us in the second retreat in Puerto Rico. So I'll share more about that on a podcast. And maybe what I'll do is I'll also, on another one, I'll bring Natalie and interview her. This is just putting it out in the universe about her own journey of unfolding and deconstructing and reconnecting and reclaiming the healer side as well. So, well, everyone, thank you for listening. I hope you get something, a nugget, and I look forward to continuing this communication. Share with me what are you deconstructing, what resonates, what are you taking, what are you composting, and where are you in your journey? I look forward to building more community and getting this back on track. Until next time, bye-bye.